5. 54 days pass. The leaves have fallen off the maple trees that line the street. Afaf and Majid can no longer go outside without a coat and hat. Soon, Christmas lights will border the windows and rooftops of the neighbors' houses. Though her family doesn't celebrate Christmas, it is Afaf's favorite time of year. Baba takes her and Majid for long walks around blocks of bungalows decorated with nativity scenes and snowmen with round bellies glowing with a warm yellow light. Khalti Nasreen comes every other weekend. Mama returns to cooking and Afaf is grateful for that. Her mother is a far superior cook than her aunt. She comes home from school each day, and the aroma of broiled lamb and tomato stews spiced with bahrat welcomes her. It almost feels like life is returning to normal. Baba has begun to stay away again. He spends half his time rehearsing with his band, the other half with another woman. Afaf overhears her mother talking about her to Khalti Nasreen. How much can I endure, Ya Nasreen? Mama wails to her younger sister. Ya Rabbi, what kind of life is this? They are plucking the stems of mulukhia over sheets of newspapers spread across the kitchen table. Her aunt found a fresh bundle at a grocery in Milwaukee. A big bowl sits between them, a small mound of green leaves forming in it. Afaf sits on the floor of her bedroom, her door ajar. All she can gather is that the other woman is Arabiya, a singular affront to both her mother and aunt. Afaf wonders if it would be easier if it had been a white woman who'd stolen Baba. After lunch, one weekend, Afaf musters the courage to ask Khalti Nasreen, "Does Baba love another woman?" She stands on a step stool beside her aunt at the sink, drying the dishes she carefully hands to Afaf. She broke a small dessert plate the last time Afaf begged to help. A portable television drones in her parents' bedroom. Baba bought it from a co-worker and Mama accepted it without a word. He managed to fix the antenna until the screen finally cleared of static and images of people cut through. Khalti Nasreen stops rinsing a glass and looks hard at Afaf. "What have you heard?" Afaf shrugs, trying to be nonchalant. Her aunt looks thoughtful for a moment. "You must not repeat a word of this to anyone." Afaf solemnly nods as she rubs a bowl dry. She understands telling a child is like telling no one at all. It is actually a sad story when you get right down to it. Khalti Nasreen begins in a low voice, checking behind her for Mama's closed door. Her husband was killed in a car crash, God rest his soul. She's a young woman, only 24. It was Nasib, I guess. Our Lord has mysterious ways of bringing people together. Does Baba help her forget? Afaf vigorously dries the bowl. Her aunt hands her another one dripping with water. Yes, I suppose he does love her, but that's not fair to your mother, even if the other woman is sad. Mama's sad when Baba's around. It is complicated, Habibti. You'll understand grown-ups better when you get to be one. It's not an appealing prospect for a 10-year-old girl. Months of observing her parents and their misery may have brought her to a critical decision. Afaf will never get married. She would still have to grow up, but she would live on her own, on a farm like Fern in Charlotte's Web. Of course, she couldn't raise pigs. They're haram, but she would raise chickens and cows. Maybe she'd let Majid come along too. The day before Thanksgiving is a half day of school. She and Majid run home jumping over puddles of rain. Her brother careful not to damage the colorful turkey he's constructed from an outline of his hand. It's the same one she'd made at his age, one of the many childish creations she'd present to Mama after what seemed like hours of carefully coloring inside the lines or delicately gluing cut pieces onto brown construction paper. For Majid, it's yet another gift for Mama, like a potion that might break the spell of gloom. Afaf can see hope in her brother's face. Their mother's dresser is lined with macaroni art, a paper mache jack o' lantern, a color by number bouquet of flowers. Mama smiles at each offering, asks Majid to explain how he'd made it. Then she withdraws to her inner world. But for a few moments, a curtain is drawn from her face, and Majid and Afaf can see someone vaguely familiar. As soon as Afaf opens the back door, she senses something is wrong. The kitchen counter is full of half peeled, half sliced vegetables, and dinner plates have been smashed on the floor. Mama, Majid calls. He clutches his hand turkey, eyes wide and afraid. Inside her parents' bedroom, Baba's clothes are strewn everywhere. Mama's suitcase is laid open, a few of her dresses crumpled inside. It looks like someone was trying to escape, but their plan was somehow foiled. Afaf's heart beats fast. Children? It's Mrs. Blakely, the landlady. Afaf grabs Majid's hand and leads him back to the kitchen. Hello? The old woman waves a hand, clutching the back of a chair. She is out of breath from climbing the stairs, and she is not wearing her wig. Her thin gray strands hang limply from her scalp. Afaf's stomach ripples with fear. Your mother, she's not well. Where is she? Afaf asks. Her palm feels slick against her brother's, but she won't let go. Majid sniffles back tears. Your father's with her. Mrs. Blakely wipes her nose with a handkerchief she pulls from her sweater pocket. Where? He'll talk to you as soon as he gets back. Mrs. Blakely grabs Majid's hand. Watch out for that broken glass. Oh dear, what a mess. She pats his cheek. Come downstairs for some hot chocolate and marshmallows. Wouldn't you like that, sweetie? Her brother looks at Afaf, not certain if he should concede amid the chaos. Afaf nods at him and he wipes his nose with the sleeve of his coat. He sets the hand turkey on the kitchen table and nods at Mrs. Blakely. She holds up his project with liver-spotted hands. How lovely. Did you make that for your mother? I'm sure she'll love it, dear. Mrs. Blakely's apartment is tidy and is sprayed in baby blue paint everywhere you look. Afaf detects a strange odor, mothballs. There's a small piano in the front room, its lid covered with framed photographs. Most are black and white, scenes on a farm and in front of a white church. Mrs. Blakely had once been a pretty woman. She sets them at the kitchen table with hot cocoa. They drop marshmallows in their steaming cups. Afaf watches a fluffy cloud swirl in the brownish-brown liquid. In her bedroom, Mrs. Blakely speaks on the telephone in what she thinks is a low voice. Afaf puts a finger to her lips to stifle Majid's anxious chatter and listens to the old woman as she describes the drama that was unleashed in her tenant's apartment. Mrs. Blakely had heard screaming, not those of an attack, but of sheer rage. She tells the listener on the phone, like a banshee out of hell. Then dishes shattering. I called Mahmoud at the factory and he came straight home. Poor fellow. Took her straight to the emergency room. Then an unfamiliar phrase emerges from Mrs. Blakely's one sided conversation: nervous breakdown. 2 hours later, Baba knocks on the door. Afaf and Majid run to answer, Mrs. Blakely in tow. He thanks the old woman. Yalla, Lulad, he tells them. When's Mama coming home? Majid asks, clutching Baba's hand. Are we gonna visit her? Upstairs, Baba gives each of them a brown paper grocery bag from a neatly folded stack Mama keeps tucked under the kitchen sink. Her mother rarely throws away anything. There is a drawer full of ketchup and mustard packets, extra twisty ties of garbage bags, and rubber bands from weekly discount ads tossed outside their apartment door. He tells them to fill the bags with clothes, a week's worth. Afaf helps Majid and grabs the hair album, not thinking whether or not Khalti Nasreen has a record player. That's all Baba has told them. They will be spending Thanksgiving with their aunt. It is the first time they have been to her house. Ziad, Baba's bandmate, drives them to Kenosha. They each exhale their cigarette smoke through a slit in their car window. There's Musbaha hanging from the rear view mirror. On the cassette player, Arabic ballads pour out against a backdrop of static. Baba speaks in a low voice and Ziad nods and sometimes says, Khair, inshallah. You must have patience, my brother. Ziad winks at Afaf in the rear view mirror and she tries to smile back, but she feels too glum.